So we've got the Wranglers now saddling up, taking off after Spirit, and we really wanted to get an amazing kind of excitement going on, and he's just having, a hell of a good time with these guys. He doesn't really sense the danger that's going on yet.
Yeah, he doesn't know what these two-legged creatures are at this point. He just knows that they're chasing him, and they look like pretty easy marks to him. And so he really makes a game out of it. These boards were executed by Simon Wells, who, of course, directed The Prince of Egypt along with Brenda Chapman and Steve Hickner, and also directed The Time Machine this last year. And his ability to visualize all of this stuff so accurately and so closely to what we laid out in the film. And there are scenes here that actually ended up not in the movie, but it gives you an idea of the story process we go through.
Yeah, Simon is a dynamic action sequence story artist. I mean, this is his forte. He enabled us to then go on and visualize what we could do with the 3D camera and everything else. It was really, just kind of the very beginning.
His sense of composition is so amazing in his boards, and they're really little thumbnail sketches. I mean, they're very, very comprehensive.
Right.
And as you can see, if you watch the film and compare it to these boards, so much of this ended up in the final version.
Right. What's so cool about this too is Spirit is just totally, has the upper hand, and he's so amazingly heroic and strong, doesn't really realize what he's in for, as we soon see.
Yeah. Now the boards are done by Larry Leaker.
Yeah, Larry did.
This is where he's captured. And there's some more Simon boards. It really shows you how the storyboard process goes through so many iterations.
Right.
By different artists working on the project at different times, and you never know who we're going to call upon to help us get a drawing done here and a drawing done there.
It becomes kind of a patchwork at times. It's all hands on deck.
Yeah. All of this action stuff is so beautifully realized.
Right. And, needless to say, the final version of the film, it's pretty dead on.
Yeah. A lot of this actually, some of the more, I would say, violent aspects of this were actually toned down a little bit in the final film, just because once it was all animated, this felt pretty severe. So we did soften a little bit of what was here, just because I don't think this would be very pleasant to watch if it was executed fully the way this is rendered here. The way this guy comes up and puts his boot on Spirit's head.
Yeah.
This is a very old version.
Right.
We, of course, changed this, but notice Spirit's determination the whole time. He's indomitable. And now this sequence is the storyboard for when the Colonel decides he's going to himself try and break Spirit in the fort. And it's early that morning, and Little Creek has been introduced into the film, and the Colonel, he sees Spirit so much as a symbol of the West that he intends to help conquer. And it's really a very mano-a-mano relationship that he and Spirit have.
And once again, the dynamic aspect of these shots and how everything was staged is so true to form to the final cut of the film. We really wanted to get a sense of being right up there in Spirit's face, and as you said, this mano-a-mano thing, where it's Spirit and the Colonel.
And you'll also notice the close-ups we put in of Spirit to give reactions. That was really we found that more and more we needed to find a way to keep the audience involved with Spirit's experience with this. And so there's a lot of inserted close-ups that remained in the final film. And I think that's largely why I think an audience member is able to sort of relate to the horse for the entire film as the main character.
Yep.
Whenever we didn't have those close-ups, we found that we were watching Spirit more than being in there with him.
Yeah. And once again, regardless of what happens to him, we always wanted to make sure that this horse could collect himself, get his strength back, and figure out a way he would get through it. Right. And he figures that, that he's going to do it with the Colonel here pretty soon.
Yeah, there's a lot of great boards in here by Jürgen Gross and Ronnie Del Carmen, our story supervisor. there's some Simon Wells boards in here. There's some Larry Leaker stuff. I think there's actually a few of mine in there and a few of Lorna's in there.
It's the old, all hands on deck thing.
It's, we build these things in the editorial department.
Right. This is where you do your take 1, take 2, take 1,000, It's in
all
the
your
storyboards.
all your coverage is here.
A hostile Lakota.
And it's gratifying when, we haven't seen this ourselves in a while, so watching this and seeing these boards and how we really did, they relate to the film very closely. You can play these side by side with the movie and see that there's
shot for shot.
Yeah.
They're all there.
Yeah. And there's another facial expression on Spirit where we wanted to know that he was not really broken at this point, that he was determined. And I think, we're pretty happy with this final result. And then when now he takes over, and it's just really, these boards are so beautifully done, so clear, almost animated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, the story process on these movies really is a writing process as much as anything else. You have to be a little bit cinematographer, a little bit writer, a little bit actor.
Yeah.
Cartoonist, and all those things come into play. And it's daunting at times, but it's worth it.
It is. And you always know you can go back to the storyboard, and really fine-tune.
Yeah, and it's I think it's really the blueprint for the movie. It's where it all kind of begins after the script is done.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is these storyboards, and it has to read on the board. It has to happen.
And this film, more than ever, we had a character that doesn't speak, so we had to be really finite with all those expressions.
I'm noticing this is also one of the main scenes where we implemented the other horses in the fort sort of sympathizing with Spirit, and that was another key thing about the story, was making sure that we knew that the other horses in the film, whether they were tamed or not, sort of saw Spirit as a hero,
right,
and looked up to him.
And that was that came later too. That was something we had added a little later, and we really felt we were missing something, and that's why they were incorporated into these scenes.
Yeah. And again, this is another Simon Wells bit. Just the choreography of all this is so exactly what ended up in the film. This is about as exacting as storyboards get. It really is. Action-wise, it's really all there. Shot for shot. It's actually, looking at it now, it's actually amazing just how shot for shot it is. The sequence was laid out so closely to what's here. And I love this bit here. I think that's our little nod to Chuck Jones, perhaps.
I think so.
A little bit. Just that sort of sublime hurt gag that you see in the Roadrunner Coyote cartoons so much.
Yeah.
It's one of the rare moments in this movie where we actually did get cartoony, I think.
This was really kind of a nice idea, watching, rain come out of the dust, this vision of beauty for Spirit. And once again, it's all there in the film. But
we really wanted to really show Spirit's confusion as to why would this boy, or why would this mayor have any kinship whatsoever with this boy. And we wanted, again, the rope. In Spirit's, he didn't know what ropes were. He just knew they kept making him go places he didn't want to go. And it was, we wanted it to be confounding to him.
This is the pull train sequence, and one of the key action sequences of the film. And
it was really, it was probably the closest, this moment in the film was probably the closest thing to Die Hard we ever had in the movie. I'm sorry, where Spirit, Spirit's, we see his eye open, he's got a plan, and it's where we really stretched horse intelligence a little bit, perhaps, in the movie, but it made him such a hero.
Right. And just, pound for pound, shot for shot, it was one of the most complicated sequences on every level to get all the different elements of the CG, the 2D horses, this whole amazing, locomotive that
just keeping track of it.
comes after him. It was quite a
Just, Wendy
quite a
Rogers.
daunting experience.
Wendy Rogers and her digital effects team keeping track of all these chains and the different
Yeah.
sizes of chains and
We know chains really well. I would
chains,
say,
ropes. Yeah,
at this point.
we are experts on harnesses and all sorts of tack for horses at this point.
Yeah.
I always thought it hurt so much to have that chain around Spirit's neck, and it's a great story point. We
Yeah.
needed it, but I always thought to myself, man,
Yeah.
that's gotta hurt.
Once again, he's the hero, and he's gonna figure out a way. But this was just
Yeah.
incredibly exciting to board and to put together and to finally see
Yeah.
in conclusion in the film.
And for Lorna and I to actually have been storyboard artists ourselves in the past, when I first saw these boards by Simon Wells, I thought to myself, well, it's a bunch of great ideas, but there's no way we can actually get all of this. And then I realized after our digital geniuses and all of our effects team got together and sort of thought about how it could be done, that it was possible with all the new technology we've got at our fingertips.
Yeah. This stuff is just,
Oh.
butt kicking good. It
Yeah.
really is.
We have to give credit to Don Morgan here,
Absolutely.
who, one of our story and visual effects guys, visual development guys. He really saved us here. He came up with this time in history that there really was a train pulled over a summit in order to hook up to a track on the other side of the mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and it was done by teams of horses, and it was his idea that perhaps this iron horse could pursue this wild Mustang.
It was such an excellent thing. I just remembered, him telling both of us, "Imagine if you will," one of those things, and I thought, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's the perfect visual." I mean, we both thought that. We all thought that, but he knew his stuff.
Oh, and here's the scene where this is before the Colonel was actually even as the character that actually
Right, this
chases Spirit at
This
the
is
end.
an earlier version of the cavalry catching up with Little Creek and Spirit again. But
It's our last climactic moment in the
Mhm.
movie. But as you'll see, it's all there.
it's also a wonderful turn, with Spirit saying finally to Little Creek, "Okay, pal, you're on. Get on my back.
Yeah,
You can do it."
it's a key moment. It really is.
And it's pretty gratifying for Little Creek.
And you can just see the different drawing styles once again of all the different artists that work on
Jennifer
these.
Yu,
Yeah,
Larry Leaker once again. I mean,
Larry Leaker, Jennifer Yu, a little Jurgen Gross in there, Simon Wells. It's whoever was on hand to help us when we needed the drawing. This is really a complicated action sequence that was planned just thoroughly by the story artists and the layout crew. Their interpretation of these boards in the final film is really amazing.
mm-hmm.
The use of the computer animatic to help us build these canyons and plan these shots really sold the sequence. It put it in a three-dimensional world.
It did. And we were excited just seeing it in this boarding form, and it was amazing to then see it become a 3D sequence and really have the action
Yeah.
and the excitement that it needed.
It's really Spirit and Little Creek working together so well too, and that was the aim. Was they finally were able to combine their efforts and conquer these cavalry guys and get away from them and sort of once and for all show them that they would not be broken or captured. Such exciting stuff. And again,
yeah.
just the hats off to the story team here.
Yeah. We wanted to keep the tone also. Again, very exciting, adventuresome. It wasn't like, we're going to die here. I mean, there's danger, but we wanted to keep Spirit once again, kind of in charge.
Yeah. And again, you'll notice the colonel that ended up in the final film at this point in our development of the story was not in pursuit of Spirit for the entire film. Everything else is in place here except the colonel, and he was added after much discussion.
Yeah, I mean, we had set up this nemesis, for Spirit, and it seemed really perfect to pay him off, and we did in, I think, the best way possible.
Yeah, and this was originally the nemesis was really the Blue Man, as we called it at large, representing the cavalry, but we did break it down to where there was this one cavalry colonel who who sort of saw spirit as the symbol of the untamed West. And of course, there's this great leap here, which just feels so good in the movie, and it's shot for shot in these boards.
Absolutely. There, you got it.
And there they are. There's just there's so much we could say about just all the planning of this, and that's the original idea of an eagle shadow that showed up, which we decided was a little bit over the top, I guess, in the final film.
It actually wasn't necessary with the moment at hand.
Yeah. And we also just felt it kind of was hard to execute and make look right.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have any real magic happening in this movie, and so we didn't want to suddenly introduce something that seemed like mysticism, which didn't really fit anymore in context with the story. And here again is that great moment where what later became the Colonel puts that gun down.
In that moment of mutual respect, and
it pays off the cavalry in a very redeeming way, I think.
It was a good choice.
Yeah. So these movies are again, this one, as much as any film I think either of us have worked on, was storyboarded so thoroughly. Every nuance. I mean, it's almost in some cases posed out for the animators, and the animators had so much to work with in terms of being able to direct them.
It's true, and the animators would tell me, and it's such a compliment to all the planning and all the work that they pretty much went ahead and embellished what was boarded.